Yep, it's time for another slideshow. We'll talk a little bit about the airbrushes I use and another modeling tip for you coming up next on Hot Off the Bench. Well, hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of Hot Off the Bench. This is November of 2021. As I'm recording this, Thanksgiving is next weekend. Amazing how fast this year has flown by. The holidays just around the corner. I do want to take this opportunity, however, to wish you all the best. Happy Thanksgiving. All right, so before I get started here, what I have planned for the channel, it's the end of the year now, so I am done with posting any more models for this year. There's only next month anyway. But I am working on some projects right now which are intended to be Christmas gifts, so I'm not going to be posting anything about them on the channel here prior to the holidays, just in case the recipients happen to come across the channel here. I don't think they even watch the channel, but just in case. I will share pictures of the completed projects with you after the holidays. So I will be posting this Hot Off the Bench, and I'll be posting one more for December. And my first build I'll be posting at the end of January or beginning of February, so I plan to actually take a break in January. Whether I post a Hot Off the Bench just kind of depends on how things go. All right, so I'm ready to get started here with the slideshow. I'm going to be doing something a little different this month, however. I'm setting aside one model to tell you a little bit more detail about. Besides the pictures that I get in for the slideshow that modelers send in to me, I do reach out to modelers as I'm going through and browsing through the Facebook pages I belong to, and it's always a pleasure to see what people are posting there with regard to their completed builds. And if I do come across something that is unique that I think you guys would like to see, I'll reach out to that modeler to see if they'd be willing to share pictures of that completed build, and this is one of them. And what this is a replica of the main mission from Space 1999. Now this is the model kit that comes with the Moonbase Alpha model, and I'm sure many of you have seen this. It's just a little model kit of main mission that in the old version was placed right next to the base itself. But what this gentleman did, his name is Francois Rousseau, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, took the model kit, not only expanded it and lit it, but also built an exterior for it as well. So he did an incredible job with this, and a lot of work went into it. I thought it would be worthwhile to spend a few minutes to tell you a little bit more detail about that build. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at these incredible models I have on this month's slideshow. So first up, we have a few car models here from modeler David Eves. The first one is based on the Interceptor seen in the Mad Max movies. The car was built using a combination of an AMT 73 road racing Mustang Mach 1 and an 83 Camaro Z28, used mostly for the front panel, along with accessories from his spare parts bin. He also used decals designed by Jim Batitis. I just love how excellent the weathering looks. Just check out the dirt, dust, and grime added to the body, along with a dirty windshield that even shows the wiping pattern from the windshield wiper. Amazing job, David. And staying in the Mad Max universe is a fun conversion that David did of a Revell Snap-Fit Lightning McQueen kit, making it into a Mad Max version of the car. He fitted a resin blower and a scoop to the engine, added new side pipes which were made from scrap sprue. He also added a roof spoiler created from his spare parts bin, added a couple of fuel drums in the back, and changed his eyes to make them look more mad. The MFP badges are from a decal set designed by Jim Batitis. And here's how it compares to the version seen in the movie. Really awesome there, David. And lastly is this post-apocalyptic muscle car inspired by a car seen in the computer game Half-Life Episode 2. The two kits used for this build, an MPC Rat Trap Vega and an AMT 71 Dodge Charger. As with the Mad Max build, he also included pieces from his spare parts bin. Again, just an outstanding effort here with weathering. The rust all along the body's exterior is just fantastic. Really some beautiful pieces, David, and thank you for sharing. And here we have a build from modeler Olivier Xavier of Batman and Robin. This was created with 1/12 scale figures which Olivier found on eBay with the intention of fitting them into the 1/12 scale Hot Wheels Batcycle. Olivier did a fantastic job here creating figures that resembled the superheroes from the 1960s show. The figures were completely hand-painted. These look great, Olivier. Thank you for sharing. And next is a beautiful replica of the Seaview by modeler Joe Hanna. This is the 38-inch long model from Mobius Models and has the 8 windows as was seen in the movie of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Joe lit not only the bridge and the spotlights that are underneath, but added in tail lights as well as lights to the conning tower. Very nice job there, Joe. Thanks for sharing. Okay, well here's a beautiful rendition of a Skeleton Warrior by modeler Kenny Conklin. This is a resin kit that stands 150 millimeters and dates back to the 1990s. Kenny used scale 75 paints for the tunic, boots, and belt. Vallejo Game Air Bone White was used for the bones, along with a game color umber wash to enhance the recessed areas. The chain mail and shield were painted with Model Master's acrylic steel. He used Daler Rowney inks for creating the rust effects on all of the pieces that are supposed to be metal. The base is a solid piece, but Kenny did hollow out the gauntlet. He did such a nice job with creating a very realistic appearance to all of the detailing included. Kenny did want to point out that as he was working with this kit, the resin did have a very bad odor while he was sanding, so just make sure if you happen to have this kit, you wear appropriate safety masks while sanding. Really nice job, Kenny. Thanks for sharing these pictures. Richard Rail is our next modeler here with a build of the USS Galaxy at McKinley Station. The station was seen in the 4th season Next Generation episode in which the Enterprise is completing a refit after the Borg battle. The ship is the 1/1400 scale version of the starship from Erdel, and the station was 3D printed. The entire piece is mounted on a wooden plaque with an imprinted image of Mars. Richard noted that he had to create a few 3D parts to add to the build, which was a first for him. Beautiful job here, Richard. Thanks for allowing me to share this unique build. And next is a piece from modeler Kenny Molta. This is a 1/32 scale build of the original series Viper, and Kenny used Tamiya paints and weathering powders for detailing the ship. He included Paragraphics photo etch to add detail to the cockpit, and used small LEDs for illuminating the cockpit and engines. Kenny notes that he loves building sci-fi and military models and has recently returned to the hobby after a 20-year hiatus. Welcome back to the hobby, Kenny. Really nice job here, thanks. Next, we have a piece from the Jerry Anderson universe built by modeler Ray Hernandez. This is the Stingray from the Stingray TV series. This was a sci-fi show produced by the Andersons back in 1964 following the exploits of the World Aquanaut Security Patrol, and their flagship was the Stingray. Ray felt the biggest challenge here was the multi-layer paint scheme. He also had to add portholes and scratch build the skis. The model was displayed with artificial plants found at a dollar store, and you can see how nicely it fits in displayed next to his 50-gallon aquarium. Nice job, Ray. Thanks for sharing. And here we have a 2001 Space Odyssey build from William Dunn. This is a large resin kit of the Ares 1B, designed by Scott Alexander from Atomic City Models. It measures 17 inches in diameter and comes with a full interior. Enhancements added by Bill include interior LEDs, passenger and crew figures, and a landing pad display illuminated with blue LEDs. The model is beautifully done and made a very nice replica of the ship. Outstanding work, Bill. Thanks for sending these pictures. Next are a couple of builds from modeler Ricardo Cabrera, who has returned to the hobby after 9 years. First is a look at this 1000 Excelsior class ship he named the Valley Forge. The model is nicely detailed with all of the Aztec paneling and blue colors that are the hallmark of this class. Looks great, Ricardo. And here is his build of the 172 Bandai X-Wing, which he detailed to what we saw in the New Hope. Beautiful pieces here, Ricardo. Thanks and welcome back to model building. Here we have a couple of figure models from modeler Bill Galloway. The first is of the iconic Robbie the Robot, and it's an old Polar Lights kit which Bill points out had some problems with pieces fitting together. Nonetheless, it turned out well, as you can see. The model was painted with Tamiya and Vallejo paints. Bill points out Fantastic Planet is one of his all-time favorite films. Next is a 3D printed figure of the Mandalorian, which was created using an STL file from Gambody. Bill did some of the detailing and weathering by hand sponging with Vallejo paints. The armor was painted with Alclad and Extreme Metal from AK. This was Bill's first 3D printed figure and has since done others. Great job on this, Bill. Thank you for sharing.
Keeping to the Star Wars universe, we have this build for modeler Nigel McLaughlin of Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. This was built using the old MPC kit, and Nigel added interior panel lighting which changes color along with red LEDs to illuminate the cockpit and provide the glow for the engine. He also added a Darth torso. Nigel points out that light leaks were a problem with this 40-year-old kit, and one of his solutions for the side panels employed the use of pill containers, which he painted black. Beautiful job there, Nigel. Nicely done. Thanks for allowing us a look at this great build. And here we have a Star Destroyer built by Lee Chambers. This is the Anagram 28-inch kit of the famous ship, and Lee used 2 HobbyLink International lighting effect boards for this build. The first was a Bird of Prey board used to provide the front laser cannon effects, and he used the photon torpedo effect to ramp up the 4 small thruster engines, simulating what happens when it jumps to light speed. The other HLI board he used here is meant for the Falcon, but is used here to provide red and warm white blinking lights along the side trenches. The TIE Fighters and Blockade Runner are 3D prints from Shapeways. The Imperial Shuttle was included in the kit. The total weight of the kit is 6 kilograms, and he used an old IKEA lampstand with extra lead weights epoxied to the bottom for the display base. Beautiful job as always, Lee. Thanks for sending these over. And to end our slideshow, we have this fabulous build by modeler Jeff Polizotto. And by the way, this piece will actually be featured on the cover of the January-February 2022 issue of Fine Scale Modeler magazine. This is the recreation of the scene from Rogue One in which 2 Star Destroyers collide. If you recall, one was pushed by a Hammerhead Corvette, and you can see it here. The Star Destroyers were constructed using the kits from Zaveda, and it includes LED and fiber optics for lighting. Flickering LEDs were used to simulate the fire from the crash. Fiberfill was used to simulate the smoke. A very beautiful build, Jeff, from one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Congratulations on this, and for having it featured on the cover of Fine Scale Modeler magazine.
Amazing work as usual. Thanks guys for sharing. I really do appreciate it. And if you'd like to see your model feature here on the slideshow, just send pictures to ismslideshow@gmail.com. If you could send along 4 or 5 good resolution pictures along with a brief description and some details you'd like me to share about the build, just send all that together again to ismslideshow@gmail.com. All right, let's go ahead and move along now to take a closer look at this incredible build of Main Mission from Space 1999.
So Francois not only used 1, but 2 Main Mission models to create this build, which not only features Main Mission, but the Commander's office as well. Here's a look at the original configuration, and right away you can notice the Commander's office is not only inaccurate, but very small. Combining the 2 Main Mission pieces required modifications. You can see here he had to reconfigure the steps and the surrounding landings. Once the 2 halves were joined, it was on to cutting out the light panels. He used a Dremel for some of it, but for most sections, he found an X-Acto knife worked well. He actually found the plastic easy to cut for the most part, but the curved walls were more challenging. Another piece he replaced was the wall panel provided for the computer banks. Here's the piece he constructed and used instead. Another detail he scratch built using various rods of plastic was this comm panel. These were commonly seen throughout the station. The most challenging part of the build was the staircase. The one provided with the kit was a spiral design which was completely inaccurate. Francois replaced it with his own scratch-built piece, which he actually built twice, as he wasn't satisfied with the first. The staircase, he says, is very tiny, measuring only 10 millimeters in width. Here are more shots showing various stages of construction. Strip LEDs were used to provide illumination for the wall panels, and here we get a peek at a light test. And now, the completed project.
So I was absolutely amazed by this build, and hopefully you were too. If you have any questions for him, feel free to post them in the comments section below. Thanks again, Francois, for allowing me to share your pictures. All right, well, it's now time to talk about a model building tool, and what I'm going to talk about today is something I'm frequently asked about: the airbrushes I use for my projects. Now, this is a topic a person could spend a lot of time on. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of the airbrushes I use. So I'll start off by saying that I did not use airbrushes for many years. I started off, as many of you did, using rattle cans, and I thought they were convenient and easy to get a hold of, and I was also intimidated from using an airbrush. I don't know, I thought they were too complicated, too hard to keep clean, too hard to use. When I made the transition to using an airbrush, I found that none of that was true. I started off with some cheap airbrushes since I was going to just make this jump and didn't want to invest a lot of money. I started off with these cheap ones that you can, I think a lot of them are made in China. And I found out immediately, that you had a lot more control over the application of the paint. And that's something that I was constantly frustrated about when using rattle cans. It's one thing that got me into trying an airbrush to begin with. But I did find, however, that even though those airbrushes were cheap, that's precisely what you got as well. You got an airbrush that I constantly had some mechanical problems with, and I felt they had these tiny little parts that you could easily lose when you were cleaning them. So I eventually decided to invest in a better airbrush, and I should have done this to begin with because they really weren't terribly much more than some of those cheap knockoffs, and it really paid off. And the first airbrush I purchased was this Badger Patriot 105. And then I eventually purchased a second one because I was looking for something that would provide a little more detail. And this one came recommended to me from Kenny Conklin. And this is the Renegade Chrome, also from Badger. So let's take a quick look at these.
So you can purchase the Patriot 105 from a variety of sources, and it runs about $80 new. It is a dual action gravity feed airbrush. Dual action means the trigger mechanism has two movements, pushing down and pulling back. Pushing down allows the air to flow through the brush, while pulling back allows paint to pass into the airstream. The further you pull back, the greater the volume is allowed to flow. And this gives you the ability to adjust both airflow and paint volume being applied. Gravity feed, of course, means the paint is located in a cup above the airbrush, allowing gravity to be used to help force the paint through the brush. And this allows it to be sprayed with less pressure. Now, I don't have any experience with this type of system, but this is a siphon airbrush. As you can see, the paint is held in a bottle underneath the airbrush. One potential advantage would be that you're able to hold more paint in that bottle versus what can be held in a cup that comes with a standard gravity feed airbrush. The other thing I like about the Patriot, it's easy to put together, and even though I'm speeding it up a little bit here, it really doesn't take much longer than what I'm showing. And here's a look at the Chrome, and one of the main differences from the Patriot is that it has this regulator at the back. The regulator limits the back and forth movement of the needle, regardless of how much pressure one applies to the trigger. Having this type of control thus allows you the ability to repeat and regulate spray patterns. Taking this one apart is just as easy, and I chose to have this one because of the control. It's been helpful with achieving finer spray patterns and detailing. As for a compressor, I use this Iwata Sprint Jet, which is nice and quiet and has a small footprint. And lastly, I invested in a spray booth a couple of years ago, and I'm glad that I did. Even though I work with acrylics, it's still nice to have the spray directed away from me when I'm working on a project.
So I hope you found this useful. Now, obviously, Badger's not the only company who makes airbrushes. If there is an airbrush that you're fond of and have some things you'd like to share about it, feel free to leave a comment below. Okay guys, well now it's time to end our segment here with a model tip, as I usually do, and this one is provided by Mark Fraley. Now, even though I spent the last few minutes here talking about airbrushes, there are a number of instances that using a brush by hand is more advantageous or preferred. And this is something that I've come across because I've been, as you know, working more with figures, and many of these types of figures, it's better to use brush by hand. So Mark has provided us some guidelines here to help us achieve a more satisfying finish.
First, apply paint using smooth and consistent brush strokes. This will definitely help you achieve a more realistic finish. Another important point in achieving a good finish, apply the paint in thin layers and gradually build up to the color and opacity desired. 3. Try not to paint over previously dried surfaces until they're thoroughly dry to avoid lifting off layers, which can certainly lead to a sloppy finish. And 4th, patience, patience, patience. By taking your time, you'll be happier with your results.
So hopefully you'll find those helpful. Thanks again, Mark, for providing those tips. All right, well, that does it here for this segment of Hot Off the Bench. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I had every intention on posting this before Thanksgiving, but by the time this is on the channel, it's going to be after Thanksgiving. So I hope you guys had a good one, and I sincerely want to wish you guys all the best this upcoming holiday season. So thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment here in the comment section or email me at innercirclemodeler@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.